push into them. This contention here between Genesis, Dogma, and Game Lords is going to be an interesting one. Down to Victor now, who's just slowly but surely getting pushed on out of position with that zone. At least does find one. But again, they still have to make a rotation, and the rest of Genesis is trained on this position. They are just waiting for a pixel to pop to take them out of the count, to take Victor out, and to provide them that space from that southern side.
The domino effect of 4 AM pushing, it forced Game Lords to all three of them go down to isolate that one player, and they gave up the high ground. This was Game Lords' position. Game Lords was gatekeeping out Genesis and 4 AM. But the second they gave up that high ground because they didn't want to risk a 2v1, it was the Genesis team to overtake it. Now Genesis in a great position. Meanwhile, on the edge of the map here, both teams of GK and Xavier in the hard cover. It is Vivo Keyd and GEEK fam that needs to move in. GEEK fam is eliminated. There's still the team of Vivo Keyd. One player left in the blue zone. He probably won't be making it in here either.
I highly doubt. I mean, up against the likes of GK and Xavier, who have their eyes set and trained on that coastline on the edge of zone as well. It's just going to be about that interesting question. When does GK take the action to Xavier or vice versa? Again, they're not the only team in these final zones. We've got Train to Kill already planting their flag in the zone, at least with one. Furious Gaming doing the same. And now it looks like GK Esports are trying to find an opportunity here to Xavier, but Train to Kill will actually be the ones to find that first elimination.
The sightline's so deadly down here. There is a lot of trees, you know, covering soft. You can consider it soft cover, but you just saw right there, players do sometimes just shoot through the brushes for those lucky shots, and it sometimes does connect. Circle centers right on up. GK and Xavier will have to move into the zone. I would like to see GK maybe just take the fight with Xavier rather than, you know, just trying to creep into the zone. Looks like they're going to keep that pressure up. Meanwhile, Genesis sitting really nice on that high ground with very strong sightlines onto everyone else. Train to Kill, likely doing the same here, looking at not just Xavier, but also potentially GK if they creep any closer.
Rotations, the name of the game, and right now Xavier, they are falling victim to this rotation from the zone. GK Esports moving on in, applying the pressure to one, looking for a bit more. And they've got the numbers to do it. Frankie still trying to slowly but surely move on up. Train to Kill now making their move as well, but feeling some pressure as Genesis makes that appearance and looks to take them out.
Ooh, Genesis nicely sneaking up to Train to Kill. Train to Kill was a little bit too focused, but now that they've given away their positions, Train to Kill is now trained onto the side of Genesis, and those nades will be good. Slows everything down. That is 2 players all of a sudden for Genesis knocked and finished. I do applaud the effort on potentially making the game-winning play, but hold on, everybody's getting involved now as 360 all around the map. Shots getting traded back and forth from one side of the map to another. Everyone is going to be able to take shots. We still have Furious Gaming here on the northern side playing very quiet. We'll be able to get the revive onto Trigger. Probably will have to pick him up as the blue zone is creeping in. Milo's pumping up the booster. Furious Gaming down to 2. It is a slow crawl for everyone, and it's Train to Kill still with the massive advantage because they have this hillside to work with.
They have this hillside. They have all of their numbers still up and applying the pressure, just shooting every possible pixel that moves at this point in time. And now Furious Gaming feeling the action as well. GK moving in. Train to Kill not quite finding that connection. So GK will have just a space, just an opportunity, a glimpse of time to get that elimination. But for how much longer will they be able to survive here? Train to Kill, it just looks like they're just tunneling vision on GK Esports here.
GBK is definitely their biggest threat with 3 players up and in closest proximity to them. GK knows that they have to make this push. GK has been playing so well today, game 1 and game 2, racking up a huge amount of points. If they were to go down here, they already have 9 eliminations and a 3rd place finish. And what's even better, Ragnar's going to open this fight up with a grenade, setting this fight back to a 3v3, and they're giving up the high ground. If they decide to wrap up, they could win this, and Genesis on the other side of things get some shots onto Train to Kill. Train to Kill looking so strong at 4, now down to 2, and now GK will wrap up to the top side. It is a 3v3 1. GK, 11 eliminations. They just need to find one more player. The last player trained to kill. Good nade, getting a lot of damage. He's going to pop up. He gets one. 1v2. Can he get the second player? He needs a good one here. Fires off a lot of shots. Ragnar almost goes down. Ragnar will throw the nade back. Doesn't connect. Confirms the point. And now he's going to wrap back. He's given away his position. Wants to change it up a little bit. Goes prone. Might catch one more player and isolate down to a 1v1. Zone is closing in ever so slowly. GK, they have the advantage, but they're definitely not going to play this too carelessly. Last player of Train to Kill, snaking in. Both players of GK, one player of GK actually, Tom with the hard cover, is going to try and spot out any movement in grass. Sandesh spots one. He knows where the last one is. He's going to go for the 1v1. Pre-fires the right side corner, pre-fires the left side, gets some more shots in, but the last player of GK swings out wide, swings out unexpectedly, all the way away from the cover, and that throws off the pre-fire, and it is GK with a very strong chicken dinner. GK just shot themselves up huge in the lead, because I don't believe anyone below them. Oh yeah, look at him. He's like, where's everyone? Where's everyone else on the leaderboards, huh? All here.
Come on.
We're here all day, baby. All day. GK. Man, this team, not one of the teams that I think a lot of players or a lot of, viewers might have had their eyes set on to come out with a strong performance on day one, but man, they are high above everyone else now.
I mean, Geekay Esports moving on in from those Middle Eastern Africa champs, the team from Saudi Arabia making everyone so proud at home. And again, just managing to calm everything down in the final moments. Train to Kill, once again, so close. This is such a much better performance from them than what we've seen so far today, but just so close, just short of making that a winner-winner chicken dinner game. It was extremely close, but maybe this spells the hope that we should be expecting from Train to Kill and the other maps.
Yeah, Train to Kill, making a really good comeback as far as performance goes. I feel like they had a chance to really close out the game there. They needed a pressure into GK rather than hovering down the middle. We saw when they hovered in the middle, GK pushed up, the other side third-partied, and that was the demise of Train to Kill. But great performance for them, even better for GK, because this makes 3 amazing, consistent games for this team of GK.
And it's GK Esports that get the first back-to-back chicken dinners here in Group Yellow. And it's only match number 3 at the start. Crazy. This team is absolutely dominating and crazy indeed, Imperium. They got to be feeling the hype, huh?
Definitely, they held on to one of the strongest compounds coming into the mid-portion of the game down on the southwest island, and they controlled from the north extremely well. They took down 2 players from T2K in the late stage of the game, finished off Genesis DOGMA. It got a little bit scary. 7 got a little bit scary because Sandesh made a good run of it, but in the end, they closed it out clean.
Very scary, I would say. I think we were both just waiting to see what was going to happen there. I thought T2K might have been able to take it, but you can see Ragnar there with 6 eliminations, 708 damage, and I feel like that nade that he was able to throw and knock the player from T2K at the end of the match was perfect, and what was the opening that they wanted, that they needed.
Yeah.
I must say, and I'll be completely honest about this, when we saw the overall earlier and I saw Geekay Esports up there at the top. I was like, okay, that might be a bit of a fluke. It's 2 matches. But after this performance, I mean, now it's starting to become consistency. I know it's day 1, but I love the adjustments they've been able to make. I mean, in Erangel, right? First match, they weren't able to fully defend the compound the way we wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to show us adjustment on the fly, which is great to see.
It's insane to see. As a matter of fact, it's insane. Take a look at the bottom. You can see the fan vote leaderboard right here. Looks like S2G is up on top. BTR a close second. Let's just see 1 million up there as well. You know, nobody I don't really see from this group, but
Not
heck,
yet.
who knows?
Not yet.
After today, these first 2 games, I think, or 3 games, right? I think we may see one particular team named GK up on that board. I wouldn't blame anybody either. They're performing strong here today. Hey, by the way, you know, we're also seeing some great performances from some of the other squads as well. You know, Furious putting up some good consistent points on the board here. I know it's only 3 games in, but at any time, we could see another squad pop off here, period.
We're seeing a bit more of a pattern from a number of teams compared to other weeks and other groups. You hit the nail on the head mentioning Furious. It was nice to see Genesis DOGMA kind of come out of their shell a lot more in that previous game. They did the right job of kind of holding back between Game Lord and Nova. I know Zute mentioned it during the game down on the southeast side. And yeah, okay, they were left with just Daybot in the end, but still another strong performance. The cushion that GK have created, though, in the top 3-7 I can't wait to see the overall standings, because that's going to be incredible.
I'm so glad you mentioned that cushion, because I was about to mention it. I don't want them to get too comfortable. We've seen what happens, right? Even though it's just 3 games, I want them to just continue on improving, continue on showing us these changes that they're currently being able to show us, and continue to perform that well. If they can maintain themselves within the top 5, I mean, I'm not expecting them to win every single match, but if they can continue on with this type of consistency, they could be a very, very scary team.
Absolutely. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, you know, last week, HVVP. Right, we saw them dominate week 1.
Yeah.
Dominate. The first day, second day, third day. All of a sudden, you know, the last day, ended up getting pulled right out from under them. But speaking of pulled, gotta give a big shout out to our hotel partner here for PMGC, and that's Pullman, Kuala Lumpur, Bangsar. Our world is your playground. Also, gotta give a big thank you to our platinum sponsor, Prime Gaming. That's right, you guys can go get some nice in-game rewards, PUBG mobile content, as well as check out other Prime benefits. So go check out Prime Gaming. I mean, hey, Seven, we did an interview with Prime Gaming back in the day. Remember that?
That was a while back. But yes, I do remember.
That was a while back. Ooh, that was a heck of a throwback. But they've been around for a heck of a while, and now they're here now. And you know what? It's time to talk about the overall rankings. And, GK's in first place. Huge shocker.
28 points for second place alone, 7. That isn't a cushion. That's a double mattress, followed by pillows, followed by blanket. You name it. GK have the most comfortable lead in the top of the standings.
Whoa. This is what I was saying, Imperium. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, okay? This is what I'm hoping the players, when they see that overall, they kind of bring it down a little bit. By the way, I do need to shout out to Xavier, because they finally were able to put at least somewhat of a performance. 7 points for them, only 1 elimination. Now, I think this team can definitely be a little bit more aggressive. But going back to GK, Hotchukes mentioned it perfectly, and he got the gist of what I was saying there too. I don't want them to become HVVP.
Yeah, no. You can't let it happen to you. Yeah, I know those like first couple of games, jitters are out the way, but I know there's one team that's been just super steady. It's been GK. They're at the top of the leaderboards. Let's take a look at a really awesome interview with them before we get further on. Let's go ahead and send it on over to our host.
Welcome back to the 2022 PUBG Mobile Global Championship, and today the first day of Group Yellow, and this is a very exciting thing because we have seen the first 3 rounds full of bloodbath and insane passion. So let's talk a little bit with some of our players right now. With me I have GK. Hi, how are you, and can you introduce yourself?
كيف حالك وبس قول انت منو للكاميرا.
أول شيء الحمد لله وأنا GK ساتان IGL team in-game leader.
This is the IGL, the in-game leader of GK, and obviously he's feeling pretty good after what happened.
Wow. And this is really exciting for me because I want to know everything that happened just now. So, my first question for you is how did you feel getting a winner-winner chicken dinner in the second and third game? How did you deploy your tactics without giving away too many of your secrets?
شو مشاعرك انه فزتوا الجيم الثاني والثالث كمان وشو سويتوا انه تقدرون تفوزون هاي المراحل اصلا؟
أول شيء شعور حلو إنك تقدم ببطولة عالمية مثل BMGC، حلم لأي لاعب. أما بخصوص كيف صار هالشيء فصار بالتدريب وتجهيزاتنا للبطولة.
He said, firstly, it's amazing to be able to perform at PMGC at this level, win the second and third game, and also that they were able to win these games out of the practice and out of the preparation that they did before the tournament.
That is really exciting to see, and it's actually bearing fruit. Now, my final question for you, and this is a good one. Which team do you think poses the biggest threat to you, and why?
أي من الفرق الموجودين بالجروب ماتك مين منهم خايفين منك انه يعني يقدرون يغلبوك وليش خايف منهم؟
كل الفرق.
وليش؟
لأنه كل الفرق اللي واصلة للBMGC واصلة باستحقاق وجهد أشهر وسنين.
He says he's worried about every single team because every single team that made it here made through effort and preparation that took them years and to qualify to this tournament. So every team is a threat to them.
Wow, that's really exciting. We love a very humble team, but congratulations. Your performance today was absolutely amazing. So for now, I want to say khalas. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys at game number 4.
Great interview there with Geekay Esports, my Tash buddy as well. Hey, yo, Seven. I mean, I know just a couple things stood out to you right there, some questions. So what really stood out to you?
I love that he mentioned, by the way, I actually got a chance to spend some time during PMWI with Satan, and I saw him grinding, man, and I saw him being able to get info, and I love that they mentioned the practice because that's definitely showing right now what they're able to do. I mean, day one already, back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure YouTube chat's going to be able to correct me on this, this is the first group on the first day, the first team to get those back-to-back chicken dinners, which is super impressive. Another thing that I did love, Imperium, is that he is not overestimating any team. He's not looking down on any team. He said every single team is his biggest threat, and I love that.
Very much echoed what you said. They don't want to get too comfortable. They understand that every single team in this lobby, good at the moment, bad at the moment, is a threat because there's still plenty more games to go, Jukes.
Here's the big question, okay? Thanksgiving is right around the corner here. Okay?
It is.
It's actually right now, technically, here where I live, okay? Can they get 3 in a row and get the turkey? 7.
You know what? I'm going to become a believer. Yes, I do hope they end up getting 3 in a row. And that's why I have them on my teams to watch, because I want to continue to see this amazing gameplay. I mean, I said it earlier, I'm surprised. I thought it was a fluke. This game kind of nailed it for me a little bit more. Now, D Xavier, I mentioned it earlier as well. This is a team that's been able to bounce back. And with FaZe Clan, the reason why I picked them is because even though they did end up winning the hot drop, they ended up losing 2 players at the start of the game. Not how you want to start a game with Sanhok. I'm hoping they're able to adjust to that.
Yeah, not ideal, but also they won the hot drop, and that's a big message for the other Sanhok games in the rest of the group, right? So hopefully they'll be able to build on that. I picked up the Xavier myself because honestly I've been a little bit disappointed with them. Right, I was expecting big things from this roster coming into the start of the day. For whatever reason, they haven't really performed. I put Game Lord once again on my team to pick because despite them being low down, I think they've showed a lot of prowess and they've showed a lot of confidence in all the games. And deserves a lot of props.
I want to see more though.
Well, let's see if we can see more here in this next match. It's ready to go, everybody. Grab your popcorn, get your drinks, and we're going to send it out over to our casters.
Will they get the turkey like Hot Jukes? That's 3 in a row. That's going to be quite the tall ask for a team of GK, but hey, I think GK have been playing it extremely well from what I've seen, and there's a chance they could get 3 in a row.
I mean, like Imperium mentioned, the fact is that they aren't, really taking anyone as, not a threat. They're thinking of every single team as a potential threat. They're not taking advantage of anything. They are keeping their heads cool, calm, and collected, and understanding that in a stage like PMGC, if you give any any team around you, no matter where they're currently placing themselves, if you give them an inch, they will take you for that mile and immediately put you on the back foot. We've seen that happen in past PMGCs, so they need to make sure that they keep themselves at the same standard all the way through.
Imperium mentioned he expected more out of D Xavier, and I think D Xavier themselves do as well, as they have made a substitution there that we just saw. Same with IHC. They're actually taking out Gaulis and putting in Zyol. Now, Zyol, I was asking, where is Zyol? Because this is the guy that really, you know, 2 years ago, oh, I mean the whole entire roster, but Zyol in particular, I really had my eyes on him, so I'm glad to see him being subbed in, but man, Godless being subbed out? I mean, every player, I think, on the IHC roster is a formidable force, but obviously something's not working. So I think the team knows best how to mix and match right now. And we're heading into our second Erangel match of the day, our 4th match overall. And let's see what this one has to bring to the table.
Officially at that halfway point, we've had those first 3 maps. We know exactly who's currently leading the pack, but so do the rest of the teams. They know who they need to keep an eye out for, and they know who is going to be that danger, who's going to be that fierce competition to move on into this map. And now the question is, well, is the flight path going to be matching with the zone? Is the zone going to be allowing these teams to have a little bit more of a peaceful start to Erangel?
So when you say is the flight path going to be matching the zone, by that you mean a military
Other way around,
base?
but yeah.
Like a military base though? Is that what you're asking for?
No, I'm not gonna say that I'm asking for it. If I say that, then I'm not gonna get what I want. But I'm just saying it would be kind of cool. You know, it would be kind of nice.
I will say last week, man, we've had that matches the plane path quite well actually. Not only is it south, it's southwest, just like where the plane path started from. So, like, hey, I would say you got what you asked for. The circle does match the plane path quite extremely well. Now, it's going to be difficult for a lot of these teams to deal with because it's not just a military circle. You don't know if it's military circle or not. And, man, I would love to see a beach side ending because that beach has a lot of those, you know, hollowed out little shells, those bunkers, those blown up, you know, tanks to use for card cover. Always a cool dynamic ending if it goes anywhere around there. Of course, you have that long pier, that not ridge, but that pier that juts all the way down into water, which is also a strong position if the zone ends anywhere down there.
And I think what's crazy, because it is so west towards that southern portion, it's provided the closest to a 50-50 from mainland to military base island, at least what I've ever seen. So massive opportunity already. IHC and already the substitute making a stand, picking up that elimination.
Yeah. He comes in hot. He's like, all right, you kept me out for enough. I'm going to come in here and get a point instantly. Divine? Not sure.
Hello?
Okay, I mean, if he gets knocking the point, that's worth. But I was going to say, he's by himself. Boreum could have easily came back around and just isolated him, but getting the knock and the confirmation, I mean, I get there's 2 different types of players, right? There's a player where you're by yourself, you see a team drive by, a team, mind you, not just a singular player. He saw a team drive by. There's 2 types. You lay low, you lay quiet, or you're Divine. You stand up, you shoot, you get the knock, you get the point, and you get out of there. So killer instincts right there out of Divine. And for the side of Rejects, I guess they do kind of need the points, right? They had 2 very polarizing performances, so they need that momentum once again to get them going.
You mentioned that, and there's 2 different forms of momentum now available as well. I mean, there's the substitute being Zyol coming in with fresh-faced, you know, fresh energy, ready to bring that to the team, already starting off with an elimination, the first elimination of this Erangel, saying, okay, cool, we've set the standard. This is how we're going to be taking that forward. And for Rejects, that killer instinct, we've mentioned that before with some of the other teams. That's been our criticism, that they lack that killer instinct. They lack that energy to take it all the way. And now Rejects, they're stepping up once again. I agree with you. Me personally, I would have hid.
Same.
I would have become one with the grass.
Same.
You would never would have seen me till maybe the next map.
Until maybe the next map. Oh, well, That's one way to play it. Just play extremely quiet. FaZe making that rotation. So we'll also see some interesting rotations here, right? Some teams are going to elect to play from military base into that northern side, right? If it does shift. And some teams will elect to do it the other way around because nobody really knows which way it's going to end. I will say studying the map a little bit more carefully, it favors military base just a smidge. Just a smidgen. In my opinion.
No,
What do you think?
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. The fact is, like we said, we're cutting off that western portion of the main island, so most of that's water. And like you said, you have that little bit of an edge with Promos, but that's the majority of what so-called advantage the main island has in the zone with the military base island in comparison. So I would say there's a lot more space on the military base island. Again, we don't know how that shift is going to go. It might still end up going towards the main island. There's still that opportunity. I think we're as close to a 50-50 as we possibly can, compared to the normal straight down the middle south zones. Then, the decision is different. But here, there's definitely an opportunity. So it's going to be interesting to see which teams do take that gamble, do go to that military base island, and who will be sticking to their guns, who will be sticking to the main.
Yeah, FaZe already going down to that military base. It is also, easily doable to swim from military base to the main island through the entryway of Ferry Pier. That is if, you do it early enough, or else, those positions might get taken. So far, only 2 teams on military base. We have IHC, who just started off looting there, and FaZe is the only team, I would have to say, that made the decision to rotate to military base for now.
Yeah, for now. We can already see a little bit of that movement towards the bridges. Some of the teams may be setting up a few surprises for the other teams taking their rotations in. It is interesting to me, though, that we're seeing a lack of furious gaming towards that military base island, because we've seen in scrims they like that military base island. They took that straight dash on in. This is one of the best opportunities to actually make use of your so-called home territory, but they took that alternate drop site instead. They will be going to the coastal line. They're just on the edge of quarry, so there's an opportunity here. We'll have to wait and see who's going to be taking it first. I do like the position GEEK found themselves in. They're right on that western bridge, right in center, and they're going to be one of the first teams to set up.
Yeah, that is definitely the prime position. That and the other side of the bridge that GEEK fam are on. Luckily for them, no one's camping the other side of the bridge just yet, and I don't think anyone will really look to do that. Maybe IHC might cut in, but IHC is still all the way in Novo on the east side of military base. FaZe looks like with that early rotation, FaZe is actually looting military base all the way down in the south. As for everyone else, you see the hesitancy. No one's really committing to military base. A couple of teams committing to the shoreline sides at multiple spots to maybe make it to military base on the next circle once they really know where the zone's going to shift. So 2 teams military base, everyone else still on the main island.
Yeah, did you bring your gambling boots today? Because that one's going to be a bit of an interesting one. So here now for the opportunities for some of these teams to bring themselves into this action, to bring themselves into the fold. I mean, we know that GK have been consistent. We know that Geek Fam have been consistent. We made that joke. If you have too easy to name, clearly you're going to be the ones winning today. But there's still so many other teams that have brought through that semblance of hope, that shining moment that have made us question, okay, well, is this going to be the next challenger? Is this going to be the next team to try close that gap with GK?
Potentially here. Genesis, DOGMA here. They have 1 player here, so it's not really a bridge camp. It's more of a just gain info. The rest of the 3 members all the way northwest at the shoreline side. So Alan here, definitely just here for the info. You see on that mini map where the rest of the players are. He's going to let everyone pass through before taking shots, and he was actually going to get one here. Oh, that player actually hops out the car and looks backwards as the next zone also shifts out. Now I think we all know where the zone's going. It is military base, and the congestion right there. Oh my lord.
Ooh, that is the beauty of this kind of a zone. That is the beauty of involving the military base island, is we get treated to something
Oh,
like
not
this.
the tree.
I see is going to be holding that line. TEM Entertainment, they have no other choice but to hit the tree right now. The car's exploding right on top of it. TEM have just lost 2 players trying to make that rotation into the military base island.
You have 1 job. You have 1 job.
Don't drive into trees.
Yeah, you have 1 job when you're the driver crossing the bridge, and that is to not crash into anything. He crashes into the only solo tree right there. TEM Entertainment. Oh, man. That is, I want to say unfortunate, but that is just not. You messed up. You messed up. That's it. FALCONS, on the other side of things, taking a fight with Nongshim RedForce right here. And it looks like they're getting the better end of that as Nongshim just down to one player, I believe. And last player goes down. No, there's still one up. It's a 3v1 situation. Falcon should pick up 4 easy points here.
Oh, yes, indeed. We'll see what they can say about it. Never Alone, once again, picking up the pacing, trying to close that gap. Say, Dan, oof. Again, what do you do in this situation? There's mollies coming into your position. You've got a corner left, and there's a nade that might drop on your head as well. And now down to a little sliver of HP while Falcons get ready for the push, for the final onslaught to take this team home, to take them down back to the lobby. Never Alone is going to be taking that sliver of damage. You said back up, and back up will be the word of the day.
IHC continuing to bridge camp this deep in the blue, and for good reason. 5 eliminations. They're dominating already. Zyol is knocked, however, on the eastern side, but this works out for... Oh, just as I say that, another player gets caught on the beach side. I was going to say it works out for them because not a single team can really take a fight with them directly because more teams are backfilling, and it just means they're basically able to isolate every fight that they want to. However, they will manage to get the revive onto Zyol. They will lose that one player that was at the beach side, but 5 points for losing one player, not too bad of a trade, I would have to say.
Not too bad whatsoever. Geekay Esports, they're still going to have to move on in, trying to find that line of sight. Icy just trying so close to getting that knock there, but just a sliver of HP off of actually making it happen. Still, though, we'll be able to get that res on up to Zyol, who, again, I feel like Zyol has just been the winning factor here for IHC. They've completely looked like a refreshed team. They're bringing in that momentum. They're looking like a team to beat. It's just going to be about that rotation. Now, will they be able to get themselves situated? Will they be able to get ahead of all of the other teams following suit on that eastern bridge?
Man, look at how many teams are still in the blue on the eastern side, and on the northwestern side, there's VK that we're watching here versus Train to Kill on the high ground. BK on the low ground. Both teams pretty much playing chicken. Who's going to try and cross the road first, or they're all stuck in the blue. And on the southwestern side of Military Base, we have multitudes of teams that have made it over here somehow, some way. Some teams obviously in a better position than others.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would hazard a guess that FaZe right now, they are loving the position that they're in. With one of the only teams that made the earliest gamble that joined IHC here on towards the military base island. Now they might reap those benefits. Now they might be able to pick up those beautiful eliminations to add to the tally. And right now holding on to the south, this most southern portion really that's still in the zone. In the meanwhile, Train to Kill up here from that ferry pier, looking for any and all eliminations.
Train to Kill was the first one to try and make some sort of bridge crossing to camp the Vivo Keyd team. Oh, nice snipe though. Brings it to a 2v2. Train to Kill already lost 2 players. Vivo Keyd can try and get some revives here. It seems like that's what one of their teammates is going to try and do. Back into the blue zone, however. Train to Kill, this is their opening to either finish the fight or go for that rotation, and they're going to go for the rotation instead.
Oh, CeeLo just getting themselves down, at least getting the opposite player down to half HP. Jane now going to be making use of this wonderful, wonderful addition to the bridge to try and close that gap, get on over. In the meanwhile, Vivo Keyd hopefully will have that time to readjust. Well, for Ventores here, what's the play now? What are you supposed to do here?
It's tough. Because even if he gets an angle, it's going to be hard to get, you know, a 1v4 in, right? He maybe could get a knock and a thirst. If he could, you know, find some sort of footing down there to peek just wide enough. Here we go. We'll spot out one. Going to get the knock. Should try to go for the instant confirmation here as well. Oh, he does. Oh, actually, Trigger from the other side. The high ground from the other team will pick up that player instead. And I don't think FaZe is going to be able to get that revive. Ventores is down for the count, pretty much for the match. Meanwhile, Train to Kill still continuing to give trouble to Vivo Keyd right here. They may have seemed like they crossed the bridge, but instead they actually just set up further down to continue camping.
It's all still out in the blue as it is closing on up, so the pressure definitely on Train to Kill, because just behind Vivo Keyd, it is the 4 angry men following suit, already looking down sight to see who they can pick on up, and they will be sending it through. They have to at this point. This is out in the blue. They need to get themselves into military base, but maybe this is an opportunity for Vivo Keyd to turn it on around, finding one. Will they be able to find more?
4 a.m. now sandwiched between 2 players of Vivo Keyd. Great trap set up by them. I think it was McGrellan that didn't fire initially to get them sandwiched in, but a good trade for 4 a.m. And man, this military zone, so messy. So many teams gambled on it, not going military base, and here's the results of that. We have teams still fighting in the blue on the bridges, and we're already almost 5 circles in.
This is the chaos. This is the chaos when you go down south on Erangel, bringing in that military base island and just forcing the teams to make such tough decisions. You can see 4 angry men now. Ooh, CeeLo is going to let them pass. So that means they might be the first team now. Well, kind of stuck in like a fish in a barrel in the waters out here. Train to Kill know that someone is going to have to make that rotation. It is going to be 4 angry men, so they will take them out. And now, what's left for CeeLo? Do they actually even make that rotation? Because maybe Train to Kill thinks that's it. That's all that they were waiting for.
Potentially, I mean, he's got to make it at some point because this blue zone's starting to chunk. Looking back down toward the southwest, this is where the zone is ending. Could end on the ridgeline or back at the compound that FaZe is holding. FaZe, however, unfortunate for them, down to 3 when they could be having 4 players. That one player slipped off a little bit. 2 down deep into the water depths. Geek fam with 3 alive, 4 eliminations. This team always has some sort of elimination points to their name.
They're aggressive, man. They're bringing in that energy, but I also feel like they're not getting punished for it at any point, at least earlier on. They have that ability, that have that space and the skill to get those eliminations and run away, disengage, and get away with it. Now, IHC looking to get that revenge party going here with BESIKTAS already taking 1. The second is a bumper car waiting to happen. And IHC will not only get their revenge on BESIKTAS, but they've changed up the game now.
Yeah, this is the IHC I was expecting. This is the IHC I saw 2 years ago, just fighting their way in, dominating from the edge side. And I think, you know, bringing back Zayol into the mix of things is giving them the confidence. They have 3 players up. They still have a long ways to go. There is a team of Falcons in front of them with 3 up at a hard compound. That could be the next spot for IHC to look at. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, just slow grind of a game on these ridgeline sides. It almost is like that Miramar match we had, where teams are slowly just crunching in and constant fighting back and forth.
We said it from like fight number 12. Yeah, we've got it from fight number basically 11. As the teams are slowly knocking on down, the numbers slowly dwindling. It is going to be that constant battle uphill. Not quite literally, but GEEK right now, they hold in such an interesting opportunity because they do have this position in zone, but damn Rude right now, well, is quite alone. The rest of GEEK, they still need to regroup for that backup, while TEM Entertainment close the gap here on Furious Gaming.
Strong pull-up for TEM Entertainment. However, with only 2, get a little bit hard. Furious Gaming does have 4, but it's a 2-2 split, so these 2 players are pretty much isolated. TEM Entertainment, they need to keep going though. Next circle has shifted away from them. Furious Gaming, if they really wanted to, they could just back up into the rest of their team that is in the zone and then gatekeep together as 4, and that is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to run back. Very smart of them. No point in taking a 2v2 when you could cut it back down to a 4v2, especially with having the zone.
Absolutely. Some massive opportunities trigger. Trying to push the gates, trying to close the gap, regroup, but Baby will at least apply some of that damage, just a warning shot or 2, but they're not quite in that position to make anything more of the situation. And now, this is an interesting rotation. They've put some pressure on towards Train to Kill, so if they do now take that rotation into zone, they might expose themselves to that position. Train to Kill, on the other hand, also need to move into zone. So just about that timing. If they can find it, they might be able to safely take that passage in. But still, Furious Gaming will be that opponent right up ahead of them.
GEEK just sweeping the sides of the circle. They're actually going to be ones to find the train to kill points. 6, 7 eliminations, maybe?
Ooh.
No, it was actually Furious Gaming that picked up that last one. Good job for both teams. TEM Entertainment, good push initially, slowed things down a little bit too much, gave a chance for Furious Gaming to regroup, and that is also the Rejects team eliminated on the southeastern side. Falcon down to 1. They've got to push in to the two-man team. Not just any two-man team, but also FaZe from long distance with the DP giving a lot of trouble.
This is such a difficult terrain to actually navigate. We saw Ventorius from FaZe going down to this exact position. And now GK, while they are feeling the pressure, talking about FaZe here, they jump on in to find that onto Ragnar. So at least one knock. But I'm not sure if that confirmation will come on through. Maybe Satan can rotate on out to get that res, or will Yusef be the determining factor here, already sending out the nades to look for that confirmation. Bevy still making sure that that res came through. So I don't know, this terrain just seems to be the thorn in their side. I don't know how far it's going to allow them to go.
TEM Entertainment still with 2, getting closer and closer, but now Furious Gaming pretty much have 3 to 4 players looking this way. Smokes are good, it'll cut out sightlines for now, but even if TEM Entertainment gets the opening on these 2, there's still that one player in the backline, yeah, that they have to worry about. I believe that is Milos right there. Does get tagged up a lot. If they got that opening, could have been a fair 2v2, but pushing in through the smoke, have the UMPs ready, firing through, and they get 1, they get 2, and that is TEM Entertainment out. Furious Gaming with a great adjustment, keeping all 4 players up and making their job easier than rather taking the hard route.
It was just that lockdown coming on through, and now they are greeted and gifted with an opportunity onto Gamelord. It's only one member of Gamelord that has actually made that cross, that swim across to where Furious Gaming find themselves. I believe Gamelord are looking for a little bit of opportunity here to capitalize on that third party, but it's not going to be the case. GEEK now also finding Furious Gaming, so all the pressure turning to Furious Gaming and Gamelords here on the edge as they are outside of the zone.
Oh, Gamelords actually managed to bring the fight onto land as Milos jumps up over the top with the huge flank, and that is Gamelord, 2 of them taken down. And, well, they've been swimming towards Furious Gaming when the zone actually has shifted the other way. So unfortunate for them. GK down to Satan. Last one up. All he can hope for now is more placement points.
The problem with Satan's current position is Yusef will be moving on in from that southeastern portion. And Yusef was the determining factor for Ragnar. They took Ragnar out, so they know there are still some potential remnants of the GK team up ahead of them. They will hopefully be keeping their eyes trained on that horizon as they slowly but surely move on forward, and that could be a deterring factor. We'll have to wait and see if GK can take that further, if Satan can take that further. But in the meanwhile, the focus is on FaZe Clan, on Furious Gaming rather, as they still have those 4 players left. FaZe, in the meanwhile, in center zone with the compounds.
It doesn't seem like anyone wants to make a hard breach into the compound either. And with the zone closing up so much, the closer these players get to that compound, the better the grass is going to be for them, because it gets harder to spot players to the grass close range rather than long range. FaZe, though, will still be able to spot players out on the rich side. They get 1. IHC getting a strong knock onto the Geek fam team. Yuhai should be able to get revived. Not fully yet in the circle, though, for Yuhai, so they're going to need to hustle a little bit to get that revive and then bring them into zone. But IHC is going to keep their backside clear, pretty much, because of that. I think everyone's going to get into the zone, besides Furious Gaming and Gamelord. Or Gamelord's in zone. The Gamelord's going to be looking to gatekeep Furious Gaming here.
I mean, how the tables have turned. I mean, it was Gamelord taking the fight to Furious Gaming, suddenly getting that knock, getting that surprise. Once again, another surprise thanks to Trigger, but now down to 1 as Furious Gaming needs to push into Gamelord territory and potentially give a little bit over to GK as well. IHC in the meanwhile, can they take this? I mean, they have looked so much more clinical, so much more refreshed. But now they're up against not only FaZe, but the Geek fam as well in this final zone.
Yeah, and Geek Fam, they have the zone on that flat ground, so they're going to be just raining in shots. IHC is going to lose all of their vehicles, so if they don't get the next zone, they better have a lot of smokes. Furious Gaming pushing in, and actually a knock does go through. Robs with the DBS. He's fishing. He gets one. There's one more fish to be had. Trigger. He's going to swim around. Drops a smoke right there. Yo, yeah, Robs needs to watch out for Satan here. Satan on the other side. Trying to third party this. Now Satan's the one fishing for the two players. Robs goes back up to try and challenge to pop off a shot onto Triggs. Triggs now goes back up. It's Robs to take it in the end. And he does find cover from Satan. He will get back into the hard cover of things. And you can see him celebrating down there as well. That was a back and forth fight for sure. And Geek still getting knocked on by the side of IHC. IHC looked like they had the better positioning, but man, the shots are just connecting for them right now.
I feel like we've just completely gone the opposite way of these first three maps. All of a sudden, we're talking about IHC potentially taking out Geek Fam here. We're talking about FaZe Clan sitting pretty. Sitting so relaxed in the center zone with the very few compounds that are left they currently have full control of. And I mean, that engagement with Game Lords and Furious Gaming, I don't even know how to start breaking that down, other than the fact that this terrain is such a difficult mountain to climb, quite literally. Now FaZe Clan up here towards Geek Fam, and Geek, they are pushing in, trying to get themselves that hard cover.
Geek's going to be the aggressors here. They know if they remain out in the open once more, that is FaZe and IHC who has a beat on them. So they're going to get to the hard cover instead. Good play. They do have Rude out here providing supporting fire with that mini. So they do keep a player on the outside for the off-angle support. They don't want to stack all their eggs in one basket. And for good reason here, because Rude is getting some nice shots in with that mini. Very accurate long-range player there. And Geek actually opens up the fight with FaZe with the great grenade, like an isolated, not going to be able to get revived. Another grenade comes in and chunks him down to 60% health.
I mean, this reminds me of that Gatka hot drop that we had. So many players in the different buildings taking on that engagement, and that small war of attrition that's happening. But IHC from the back line applying the pressure. This needs to happen. And again, the turns have tabled. Yusuf out in the water now, and Robs is going fishing. So many teams going fishing today, Zute.
Look at looks away at the exact wrong time. I was just going to say, look at how dominant he is, keeping eyes on the water the whole time. But the second he turns around, Yusuf comes up, and that's Falcon eliminated in fourth, but he will pick up that one fight. We're down to 4 teams, and GK still in the game.
Oh, Alex, just that long hit coming through from Rude, who has been the thorn in their side as they're trying to move on in from the southeastern portion, and not a lot of options. Again, those compounds, that hard cover, it is in control of Geek Fam and FaZe. And they know their position is given away. They know they are exposed, so as soon as they make the move, it might go downhill for them. They need a little bit of chaos to happen in these compounds to give them that opportunity to quickly make a dash in.
Things are going to slow down a little bit here. I don't think any team is really going to move up too much. They're going to play for one more zone, but the last zone, it's pretty much going to just close down the middle. Most central part of the map is maybe the hard compounds. It might shift a little bit out towards the side of IHC into the grass. Geek is going to make the first play here, getting on top of the roof. Geek still has 3. Satan falling in from the grass side. FaZe is going to go into the engagement. FaZe now down to 1. Geek about to take control of this hard cover compound. Zayol from distance is going to fire off some shots to slow things down for both teams. FaZe, does he know? He isolates the 1v1. If FaZe can pick this one up, it'd be huge. But Rude will just win and take the 1v1 instead. Now that another team is out, you see IHC getting up through that chaos to just create a little more ground for himself. But now it's a 3v2v1. I don't think anyone really has realized Satan is still there on that southern side.
Satan become one with the grass, as we mentioned earlier. Very different situation this time around. If you're the last player for your team up against another 2 teams that you don't have information about, all you can really do is keep it safe, keep it clean, keep it quiet as they snake on forward. IHC used that chaos just to close a tiny parcel of the gap, but Satan will be caught on out, and now it's down to our last two teams. It's IHC and Geek Fam that are going to be bringing in the winner chicken dinner, but where will it go?
Both teams with heavy eliminations. Both teams fighting their way into this last circle, into military base. Geek with the upper hand. Geek's also got this rock to peek up and over and just spray the grass, just mow the grass pretty much at free will while maintaining some hard cover. Does Icy have the grenade though? Second Rude fires off those shots. A grenade should be raining his way if IHC have it. Grenades instead will be raining in from Root. That one's going to be very close to Icy. He's forced to get up, reveals his position. Did Root spot him out? Yuhai spot him out. Yeah, they're going to be spraying that grass, but I think Icy's prone area just dips down just enough to make the shots difficult to be connected. Blue zone closing in. There's finally a nade back, but does not get the knock. Geek so desperate to find an opening here. They know they're out there in the grass somewhere, and Root actually goes down to play zone. I think he got tagged up, and then the play zone take them out. Icy's not even going to go for the confirmation because his eyes are set for the prize. He doesn't want to reveal his position with the spray and give up the 2v2. Yuhai stuck behind the tree. That is a magnet for grenades. There's another one coming in. Icy forced to peek out from behind the tree. Goes down. 1v2 situation. Zayol pops up, the sub player coming in. Goes for the confirmation. I don't know about that one. But it is a great game for IHC that they desperately needed. And Geek Fam, after slugging it out for 3 maps in a row, fighting their way in over and over and over again. Look at the relief on that player hugging the wall. I don't even think he knows what to do right now. He's just like, I need to hug something. It was tense for them. It was definitely tense. I think that was a buildup of 3 games in a row where they've been so close, or they've been fighting so hard, and finally they get rewarded with that chicken dinner.
A long time coming. 3 maps is a long time coming, but they've brought it home, picked up that winner chicken dinner, and Zayol for IHC made the world of difference. Again, maybe it was just the change of player, maybe it was the fact that Zayol has just been sitting and waiting for that opportunity to jump on in. Absolutely refreshed, brought that energy through, and IHC capitalized. They really were so close in making it a different point there. If the zone just shifted in a slightly different manner, in a slightly different pacing, we could have been seeing an IHC winner chicken dinner, which has been long awaited as well. But Geek Fam, I have to give it up to them. They've been that consistent team today.
I think it's well deserved. Geek Fam took the win for that one because Geek Fam was the one that decided to push the compound and take the risk, take the fight with FaZe. IHC also could have done the same, but you saw them use their vehicles as hard cover, parking them out in the field. So IHC essentially gave up the chicken in a sense, and it was Geek Fam who worked so hard who got the chicken dinner and the eliminations.
And now it's Geek Fam busting out the chicken dinner here to bust down the turkey from Geekay. But they still ended up in 3rd place regardless. I will say this, IHC Esports, what happened there? What happened? I thought
Beautiful.
they could have had it.
Beautiful.
I thought they could have had it there towards the end. But you know what? Actually, when I'm speaking of what happened, the real question is FaZe Clan. What happened?
Yeah.
Right, Seven?
Yeah, that's exactly. Like, look, they rotated early. Credit to them, they rotated extremely early from Mill to Power, right? 7, and they've got themselves in a great position, but they didn't really do anything with it in terms of trying to control and manipulate the game. They just locked onto that compound. But then when a team crashed it, they didn't really do anything to really punish them for it. And that's something they're really going to look back on and kind of go, yeah, we messed up.
I'll be Imperium's translator. What he's trying to say is that FaZe Clan absolutely threw that win. That easy win that they would
Yes,
have.
that's
And
basically,
also,
yes.
on top of that, they didn't even take advantage of the position they had the whole time. Are you going to tell me if you're in the middle of the circle the whole time, you're only going to come out with one elimination? Not even try.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
terrain is a big part of that last circle and those last couple circles, but you should at least try to.
I agree.
I love how the team was spread out, but I felt like it was absolutely useless and they didn't use it to the actual potential that they could have used it.
We saw Icy in the head-to-head, but I think a big focus needs to be put on Seoul, right? The casters talked about it coming in for the side and genuinely helped to make a big impact on that performance, Hodgins.
Yeah, honestly, when I see FaZe Clan perform like that, it just reminds me of just a squad that just looks nervous, scared. You know, just saying, hey, we just want to stick right here, wait and see what happens, and hopefully put some points on the board. Hopefully we can see a little bit of a change of pace here coming up soon. Let's throw it to a quick break, and we'll be right back. And just like that, we are back, everybody. I'm your host, Hot Jukes, here with the 7WG and Imperium. Brothers, this has been a pretty wild ride so far. We saw, you know, Geekay go absolutely nuts and get 2 chicken dinners back-to-back. And then Geek Fam get a chicken dinner in the last one. Of course, we got to give a big thank you to our sponsors, Sony. Sony with their Xperia 1.4 and Xperia Stream. They were actually created in collaboration with professional esports players. Play PUBG Mobile in 90 Hz with Xperia Stream's total cooling system and multiple ports for intensive gaming and streaming. Alrighty then. Oof. And I think it's time to take a look at the overall rankings and see where everybody stacks up here after 4 matches. GK still up on top. That lead is starting to get closed on because Geek Fam is coming up right behind them.
Just like that. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was telling you hopefully that team doesn't get too comfortable with that 28-point lead that they had earlier, because anything can happen. It is just the first day. Geek Fam being able to close that gap in a big, big way. Something that we need to keep an eye off, though, is the gap that those 2 teams at the top are starting to create, and the teams in 3rd place all the way down to 8th place. They need to be keeping an eye on that. By the way, so far, Geekay has not finished above 3rd place. That is so impressive to me.
Yeah. Wow. It is. It's so good. And even Furious Gaming as well, once again in that previous game, got themselves a decent result. IHC jumped up to kind of say, hey, we're here to kind of make a name. We have what it takes. A couple of teams have been disappointed, and I mentioned the Xavier already, but Vivo Keyd, man, they've been kind of nowhere across the games. Their rotations have been sloppy. Their engagements have been off kilter. They've lost players here, lost players there. We saw in game 1 when they pushed down the dip onto Furious. They can't make those mistakes, and unfortunately, they made them more than one occasion.
And talking about disappointing teams, I mean, we kind of have to mention Besiktas Esports as well, because right now they're currently in 14th place. This is a very strong team out of Turkey. Right now, they're just not performing the way a lot of people expect them to.
When I was talking to Maxman before this, like he thought that the team would struggle, and kind of his thoughts have kind of come through, so you can blame him for the caster curse. But anyway,
Maxman doing his thing.
Classic Maxman.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a classic Maxman curse right there. Well, speaking of curses, let's take a look at Imperium's team to watch right here. We see IHC, Falcon, and Vivo Keyd. Yeah, this sounds about right, Imperium.
Yeah, again, Vivo Keyd already talked about the Falcons on a similar level. The Saudi team just have been heavily overshadowed by their country counterparts in the form of GK, and IHC, again, good progression from the previous game. I was very impressed with how they held on to the eastern side of the military base. You got to follow it up, because you look at Reject, guys, they got a strong result, but they haven't followed it through with any kind of decent performances. You need to have a little bit of consistency in this kind of lobby.
I agree with you in regards to IHC, and I was impressed with the way they were able to perform on that bridge camp on the east, and they also picked the right time to rotate out of that, coming out with a lot of elimination points. I think it worked out perfectly, and I mean, for them to be able to finish off with the second place after all of that, it's even more impressive. Some of the other teams I was looking into, I mean, FaZe Clan, you heard me talk about it earlier. I felt like they could have done a lot more. They didn't. Hopefully they can improve from that, as we have seen GK do that from the first game.
Well, you know what? It's time for match numero 5. Let's take it on over to Miramar with our casters, Zute and S. Proxy.
It is SSSS Proxy out here.
Proxy.
Out on the desk, man. We are having a grand time, especially seeing, Geek Fam finally getting a well-deserved chicken the whole entire time. This whole entire day, they've been impressing us, and it's great to see IHC on the comeback. And then, of course, GK, once again, in one of the craziest zone shifts we've seen on Erangel, getting up right in there and getting the placement points still in.
I am telling you, the fact is, that Erangel was hot. That Erangel was ridiculous. The terrain these teams had to work with.
Our 5th match of the day. Our 5th match. We're almost closing in on the final game. And I think, so far, we've seen some dominant teams that have constantly been up there in the top of the leaderboards. And then some teams just been constantly struggling so far.
No, it's been difficult. It's been difficult. I think I hit my mic mute there as well, so don't worry.
Okay.
I made it difficult for you already. I gotta keep you on your toes, man. It's because you flexed that ice cream on the break. I had to get you back one way or another. But we're starting off with a very interesting Miramar. Like I was trying to allude to, that Erangel was absolutely stacked. The terrain that we brought into that final zone was ridiculous. I mean, we were talking about it, shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, team after team was just unfortunately one way or another falling victim to that crazy final zone. And now over towards Miramar, the opportunities are boundless when we talk about crazy terrain. We started off with that very difficult terrain over towards Impala and Puerto Pareso. Now, where's that question? Where's that zone gonna go? And are we still gonna see these hot drops coming on through?
Oh, we are. It's IHC back at it again with another hot drop, this time against a different team, this time with Genesis, DOGMA, GIDS here. We saw IHC. They were the aggressors last time on the hot drop, but took a little bit long this time around. Genesis, DOGMA, GIDS is going to open up the fight, get a quick isolation and confirmation onto Demo. Daybot there with the opening. IHC, are they going to stay here and fight, or are they going to start to retreat and back out? It looks like they are backing up a little bit here. Do they have a vehicle for an escape, however? And how aggressive is Genesis, DOGMA, GIDS here going to be now that they have the advantage?
I feel like we're looking at two very different question marks here. IHC now with the addition of Zyol, we know what happened earlier on Miramar, but this time maybe they'll have that different energy. And now they're going up against Genesis. They can't take that time that they did with Bashika. Now they need to bring in the action. Genesis, they're holding the high line, and we're getting some good information now But will they make use of it? Will they take that push on in? IC already trying to isolate some 1v1s, yet get some knocks moving up so that IHC have an ability to take on the rest of the team.
Doesn't seem like IHC is going to go for a full disengage, which is good. Because usually, the second you start disengaging extremely quickly, the other team could kind of sniff it out and then apply the pressure and probably catch another player in the back. Instead, they're going to put out some pressure to slow things down, to let Genesis know, hey, we're not just going to roll over and die, essentially. We're going to fight back a little bit, which might give IHC an opening to retreat or press engagement. And it looks like instead, IHC, with the addition of Zyol, like you said, they're going to lead the charge, and it is Zyol in the front leading the pack.
Safety in numbers, regrouping with this 2-2 split that Genesis are bringing to the action. IHC, they need to be very, very careful in the decisions they're going to bring forward here. Again, trying to isolate something, trying to find that opening, and Genesis scrambling, making sure they're not giving them any sort of openings here, any opportunity to pick that first elimination, to pick that first knock.
I think they are leaving Booms a little bit isolated. I know Daybot has some sort of sightline through those windows. But yeah, so good job by Booms playing solo in a sense. Just keep backing up into the sightlines of his teams, but I feel like his teammates could get a little bit closer. They hear all three footsteps, surely, and know all of IHC is at this compound. You don't need two players in the back with support line angles onto a compound. There's not much support lines to be had, honestly. And I feel like Booms is kind of left out to dry here. Booms have to play extremely cautious and play on the outsides for sure. Genesis is just gonna maybe hope for IHC to make a mistake, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. They're just leaving Booms out to dry there pretty much. And Genesis still not moving any closer. They're staying so far away. I'm not sure why Genesis is playing so scared. Might be able to pick a knock up here. Booms will be able to crawl back to safety, fortunately for Genesis, to get a revive.
I mean, we were talking about it. It's supposed to be a polar opposite of what we saw with IHC versus BESIKTAS earlier, but now Genesis seems to have stepped into the shoes of BESIKTAS in that earlier engagement. They're not bringing in that closing. They're not grouping up. They're not allowing their players to have the necessary backup to bring that full force and capitalize on the numbers advantage they currently have. They've already lost that. Booms is down, knocked on out. It's a 3v3, and the angles that they're working with here are not really going to help them in this engagement. IHC, they've taken a hold of this building. Now they're just waiting for some more information. Where are the rest of the teams at? Where are the rest of the players? And boom, there it is. Another one to the tally.
That was Zyol too, with that knock right there, pretty much. It's going to guarantee them, not guarantee them the fight, but that was huge. They stopped the revive and picked up another knock. That was a changing point right there. And Genesis is playing this so terribly right now. It could still go in their favor, of course. 2v3 could swing either way still. But it was a 4v3 with all of IHC stuck in one compound and nobody from Genesis really coming out to crunch them in. They will get that revive, take it back to a 3v3, but Genesis is making this so much harder for them than it needs to be, I think.
Icy, still out and alone. I mean, there's an opportunity to get that knock back onto Icy. They have that information from that earlier opportunity. Daybot just able to potentially peek on out, maybe get that peek, but now Zyol, with the added time that Genesis is giving them, is looking for a flanking opportunity, is looking to take that high-rise angle away from Genesis. And again, it's like an isolation versus isolation strategy here, but IHC, they're closer knit. They have that opportunity to crossfire if needs be.
I think IHC might be starting to think about disengaging. They realize just how slow Genesis is playing. And honestly, that knock out of the car was rather on the lucky side. So I think with IHC picking up 1 point after losing one player, it's like fair trade almost, right? Like if you guys are going to be playing this slow and not giving us the fight, we'll take our 1 point, we'll take back what you took from us, and we're going to play the rest of the game now. Because the circle is far north, they need loot. This is not a 4v4 game, as much as they would maybe like it to be to continue fighting this out. But there is 60 plus other players to still contend with. So it should be a disengage from both teams if neither team really wants to commit once again to a full-out engagement.
It's also for IHC making sure that they don't make the same mistake that they did on the previous Miramar. We saw what happened when they took that late rotation last time,
Yeah.
and it ended up in basically IC taking a swim for the rest of Miramar, trying to get some placements, but they don't want that to happen again. They've already had such a good start on Erangel. Don't let it end here. Let that
Yeah.
rain continue, disengage, move on into the zone, and then we could be seeing once again a completely different IHC, which is what we've been waiting for.
I do agree with that one. Yeah, IC has backed off, and so has Zio. Alex is just here to get info, to like assert some sort of presence, right? Like I said earlier, if all three of them just retreat straight, that could be Genesis, you know, looking to, you know, stab him in the back. So a staggered retreat out of IHC. Meanwhile, the rest of the game, it's still continuing. Everyone else is rotating into, you know, a central circle. Water treatment's pretty much smack in the center. So a lot of different elevations to work with here. Genesis DOGMA still here, spots one player disengaging. I think he still hears the other player below him, right? So Genesis also doing the same, leaving one player in for support or to get info. And Zio's here actually trying to get a sneaky angle. He waiting for that player to step up to shoot his teammate that's leaving, and they could get a knockback. Next circle shifts, and it centers right onto water treatment.
Oh, what a contentious southern portion of the zone. I mean, all of the teams moving on in thanks to that flight path earlier on, and it just means there is going to be a very cramped approach for these teams, especially moving on into that Hacienda del Patron, or more towards that eastern portion, just on the other side of water treatment. So now the question here for IHC and Genesis. Again, one member of Genesis has been left pretty much to their own devices, while the rest are moving on in for the rotation completely. I mean, they're right around the side of the zone, so I don't know if they've just left this player out to dry. Maybe they get an elimination. At the very least, they are doing a great job of delaying IHC.
I'm so confused as to what Genesis DOGMA's doing. That was the most...
That's weird.
That's just bad. I'm gonna go right out and say it. The way they played the entire scenario there was bad. They lose a player to leaving him stranded. That player didn't have much impact, to be honest, into, you know, the rest of IHC. Like, sure, you're stalling out a team, but you're not getting points. You're delaying this team, but you're not picking up the points on them, and you have 14 other teams ahead of you. Now you're going in with 2 players. When it was a 4v3 and they had IHC pretty much completely surrounded, so... Genesis DOGMA, I feel like in terms of hot drops, they're not a team that should be looking to hot drop. And to be fair, I don't think they were expecting a hot drop because IHC, you know, this is the first time we've seen IHC drop there. So they were just unfortunate enough to, you know, end up locking horns with that team.
Yeah, I mean, a surprise neighbor in your neighborhood, you know, moving on in with that action and now suddenly having to adapt to that whole scenario, and obviously being very cautious of the fact that, you know, if you do make that engagement, if you do push on out, you will potentially be taken on out. But I agree with you. The timing, the pacing at which they took that engagement, I feel like could have been a lot better. There were a few opportunities. They had some great line of sights in the beginning. I mean, with IHC, remember, they were in a different compound.
Yeah.
They had to move on up into that specific compound to regroup. They were initially quite isolated. So if there was a transitional moment just for Genesis to just peek on in, maybe do some damage, then it could have been a different discussion, but it's okay. It is the first day, the second Miramar. Hopefully we don't see that continuing for the rest of the days, but what is great to see, hopefully IHC will use this as an opportunity to fix their mistakes and not let them happen again.
Yeah, IHC also, you know, they try to take the fight, they try to finish it out quickly, so they made the attempt, but they're also caught in the blue now, deep in the blue, still yet to rotate. And every other team pretty much in zone. We have Furious Gaming here taking the high ground on the northwestern edge side. Next zone pretty much doesn't really go anywhere because everyone's already in the zone. A few more teams edging in. That was probably, you know, ready to fight their way in. Regardless, that is exactly what they're going to do now. Xavier on the northwestern side. FaZe on the southwestern side. Rejects driving in through water treatment. This is occupied already. And yeah, Rage is going to get crossfire from both angles. Another team rotating in. It's TEM Entertainment taking the big square compound down there. Good spot, honestly. It gives them a nice exit way out if the circle shifts off of them, and it creates a nice buffer zone. RC, though, Rejects is fighting back. One of them will go down. Train to Kill also has to worry about the teams way up in the high grounds. It's Geek Fam looking down into water treatment, too.
Oh, I mean, the stakes are so high at this point in time for Train to Kill and for Rejects. Both of these teams looking to just re-establish themselves. I mean, if you look on the overall standings, they're so close. It is actually ridiculous. Rejects will move up just a tad. But again, Train to Kill, they must not get tunnel visioned here. They need to understand there's a lot of teams in the vicinity. If they expose themselves too much, if they spend too much time, they could actually put themselves on a back foot.
They go fast and hard, though. All three crunching in quickly to take care of that last Reject player. They'll manage to keep 3 up. They lose control of the prime position in water treatment, I have to say, which is where TEM Entertainment now holds with 4, looking very strong. Circle-wise, though, all of them in that water treatment area is pretty central, so they'll probably end up sharing, if anything. We do have NSR here on the southeast trying to make some things happen. This team has been extremely quiet coming out of South Korea. NSR with only 6 points over the course of 4 games so far.
It's bizarre. It is a very bizarre day that we've had so far, not just with regards to the zones, not just with regards to these crazy hot drops that we keep getting treated to, but also just the teams that we're expecting to step on up. They're a bit quiet, but now this engagement with Falcons might be the stepping grounds, might be the proving grounds here for Nongshim RedForce to move on in and to get themselves a good start. The first one is going to be up to Mark, gets the trade though, looks for the second, does enough damage, nearly gets that second knock, but will go down, and now the rest of Falcons, they need to recover, hopefully with a res onto Yusuf.
2v3 situation. Now down to a 3v1. Nades come in for added pressure, and now it's Never alone, looking pretty alone here by himself against the 3. He steps back into the Molotov and actually will go down. Satan on the pressure, on the chase. They can take this slow, get the revive, and then pressure that player. Yep. Nongshim Red is going to do the safe play right there. And IHC, from deep inside the blue, finds himself on the high ground, on the edge. However, next zone will be shifting, and it does basically close a little bit more center. So not much further a lot of these teams have to go. Furious Gaming on the northern side, trying to fight for these shacks against a D Xavier.
Opportunities lying in wait here. D Xavier looking to step on up just the way that our analysts have been asking for, have been begging them to. Falcons, in the meanwhile, have gone down to that Nongshim RedForce that absolutely paved their way through. But look at this. Furious Gaming losing player after player. Frankie not letting up under pressure.
Yeah, with one of D Xavier setting, the forward position, the info can be passed out, which little shacks to look out for, which sight lines, to give him cover. So Lamborghini here can do his magic, even though he is a solo at these shacks. And this is the next area that they want to move into. 4 a.m. though, from the high ground, finds a slim angle onto Lamborghini, and we'll get the confirmation as well. IHC now taking the fight to Nongshim Red. IHC, they wanted to fight way earlier. They weren't getting it. Now they're going to take it once again to a different team, that of Nongshim Red. And I think Nongshim, they're forced to fight this because IHC, they're pushing away from the zone into this fight for the points. This is prime IHC gaming here.
Third parties all around, IHC being the next one up on the block, down to only one Nongshim RedForce player who is putting up a fight, trying to make them stand up and trying to let the RedForce name continue, but it will not be the case. IHC, this is what we've been waiting for from them, coming through from that southeastern portion, and like you said, what a rotation they had to take. But we also mentioned the third parties, 4 Angry Men being the first third party we've seen so far in such a short time. Now the turnaround is here. D Xavier turning their attention to 4 Angry Men. Will they disengage? Does look like they'll back off just a bit, but back to Furious Gaming they go.
I like the attempt on trying to overtake 4 a.m. by D Xavier. They realized, when their player went down in the low ground, that is not the prime position. So they try to get the prime position, but the defense was too good. Now they're forced back into the shacks to fight for it against Furious Gaming. Milovan, last one up, and the support fire from long range once again out of Frankie with the mini. Looking good, looking strong. D Xavier down to 2, and they will be playing from the low ground. 4 a.m. control pretty much the entire north side of the mountain ridge. The only team contesting them potentially, well, which other better team to do it than GEEK Fam?
Coming on in, it is it is what we've been wanting. The team v team action, really to see what GEEK Fam, what 4 Angry Men will be bringing to the stage. GEEK Fam so clinical in these last few days, just off of the momentum of getting that winner chicken dinner after so many games. But now up against 4 Angry Men. 4 Angry Men down to only 2, Zute. So maybe that disengagement has to come through. Maybe they need to prioritize getting themselves away from this action.
GEEK Fam getting the best of 4 AM here. Both teams play from the edge. At least traditionally, that's how 4 AM used to play. I don't know if they've changed up their strategy. We saw in Game 1, Erangel, they went for heavy rotation and got the chicken well rewarded. But here, once again, they find themselves on the edge against probably the strongest edge team we've seen so far for this week. That in the likes of GEEK Fam. FaZe taking a fight with Genesis DOGMA. Genesis DOGMA, I mean, they lost so many players, just, you know, slowly rotating in here. Now they have a 4-man team of FaZe to contend with.
And the crux of the issue here for 4 AM is they're chasing off the GEEK Fam on the overall standings. It's GEEK that are up ahead of them. It is GEEK that is their goal. And now, well, turning back around from 2nd to 3rd place, GEEK Fam are looking to take 4 AM out almost completely as they go down to only 1 remaining hopeful here. Savan having to take that rotation on in. Hopefully, will be able to navigate it because as we know, Zute, on the edge of these zones, it is absolutely stacked to the brim with teams.
There's some nice shacks that he could use. Oh, yep, never mind.
Ooh.
As 4 AM eliminated from a huge Game 1 chicken dinner to some pretty subpar performances out of 4 AM. Definitely a lot of, you know, viewers, fans looking to see 4 AM back in the PMGC, hoping they pop off. I mean, they're still doing well overall in the sense of points compared to everyone else, but it's a huge drop-off from that momentum that we were expecting after they got the chicken in the very first game.
Absolutely. But we'll have to wait and see. There is still that opportunity to turn it around. On here onto Miramar, however, Game Lords, again, they had a tough time there on Erangel. We saw that terrain. They somehow managed to turn it around against Furious Gaming, but then eventually got knocked down there by FALCONS in those last one moment that you look away, bam, there it all ends. Well, Game Lords now up here against potentially IHC, moving on in from that southern portion. They have the compounds, and for the time being, they have the zone. So might just be laying low for the time being, waiting it out, and really seeing what they're going to be forced into. Will they have to take that fight against IHC, or will they just be able to contain IHC out of that next phase?
Seems like everyone's just waiting for the next circle to see what to do. It's a huge divide. I mean, the center of zone is just that road with no cover. There's a shack that is still open, but no one wants to just default to the shack just yet. Not in case, you know, they get that zone bless on the edge side. Meanwhile, we do have GK here with 4 controlling the northwest. They do have a team in front of them, that of Vivo Keyd, but Vivo Keyd, you know, playing a little bit more quiet. Satan getting shot at long range is going to fall back into cover.
What's interesting also for Geekay Esports is that GEEK Fam is still up and at 'em. And now GEEK Fam has just found the Xavier, picking up at least 1 with an immediate clapback here from Vivo Keyd. Might mean that we can see some sort of a change. The Xavier will go out, and Vivo Keyd still keeping their eyes trained on that position, maybe to see if they can pick something up. Same can be said here for Geekay Esports. If they manage to take GEEK Fam out, that is their last biggest competitor. That is the last team that is the closest to closing that gap and taking pole position.
On the southern side, circle shifts, and IHC, well, they were ready to do this. They were just waiting to see what the circle does. They go aggressive. It's a 3v4. Alex is down first, making this a 2v4. Now the trade does come through, but the rest of Game Lord, they should be coming in here quick to get the trades, to get the support in. They knock 2, only 1 up for the likes of IHC. They might be able to get the revive, but I don't think Alex could get a first aid off in time. Surrounded from both sides. Nice push from Game Lords. They should come out on top. They already picked up 1. Down to 1 more. Alex will get a trade right back, but 1 HP. He never got that first aid off and get it sprayed down. Good defense out of Game Lord. Losing only one player maybe might have been able to prevent that, but still, they control the dominant position and take down the 3 players of IHC.
Vivo Keyd now looking here towards Geekay Esports, who have moved on into their terrain and are looking to take full control of this side before they even think about all of the other teams like FaZe Clan who are in the vicinity. That first hit onto Vincella goes through, and now the last 2 remaining members from Vivo Keyd have to scramble to make it happen here. Adrian and Diego trying to close that gap, can't find the connection onto Gate. And unfortunately, that is going to give GK Esports the timing they need. Gate down to the 1v2, and Adrian will clutch it on out for Vivo Keyd. But, I mean, by the skin of their teeth.
That was a very close one. That came down to that 1v1. Only a couple shots difference of HP. Vivo Keyd will finally stop the likes of GK. GK had 4 amazing games in a row, and honestly this 5th game not too bad. 1 elimination and a few placement points. Could be worse on the other side of the thing. But BESIKTAS, this is a team that has been extremely quiet, a team that has PMGC experience, if I'm not mistaken, and they're in 14th place, but they have 4 players up, picked up 2 eliminations in an okay position. They do have to worry about Game Lord there on the top, but Game Lord, they only have 2 players, so not as a strong opposing force as, you know, they were only a few circles ago when they had 4.
Still definitely very interesting times here, because we've got BESIKTAS up with 4, we've got TEM Entertainment up with 4 as well. And I mean, the position that we talk about TEM Entertainment, they had that controlling point there over on towards water treatment, and now already 1 knock now thanks to BESIKTAS. So our only 2 teams that have 4 players seem to be finding one another. That is spelling a beautiful opportunity now for the rest of the teams. It's going to be TEM Entertainment to take out potentially BESIKTAS, or will they stand up against them?
TEM Entertainment has to worry about Train to Kill also, though, on the northern side. There is some sightlines. If they want to make this push, they need to get over the top quickly and push in before they get third-partied. It seems like Train to Kill is more worried, though, about their northern side and playing more quiet. They could be looking to get some opportunities here, but I think Train to Kill, they're just going to be passive. Game Lord on the northern side, trying to fire in, trying to find some knocks, some additional points onto BESIKTAS. Game Lord with the edge of circle as well as the high ground, still in zone.
They've moved on in. They've also sent at least 1 player out a little bit closer, so it does mean that the only 2 players left from Game Lord are isolated, but right now it's just about applying pressure. Beautiful nade from Train to Kill over on towards that TEM Entertainment line of sight, but now Jane trying to close it up, trying to get that confirmation, and they will do so. So TEM Entertainment do go down to 3, but again, looking out for these stragglers in the zone, looking out for these stragglers on the horizon, trying to close up that gap, and yet no one really firmly standing in the zone. I mean, we've got Train to Kill just on the edge, just on the cusp of doing so, and Game Lords on the other side doing exactly the same.
Yoki going for the shack. Does manage to make it in. Oh, just as I say that, gets caught by a stray bullet and will get knocked. Vivo Keyd down to 2, not in the zone. Same could be said for everyone else, though. Everyone's just trying to slowly make their way in. No one wants to move in just yet, as there's like pretty much no hard cover. Train to Kill now finally taking the shots towards TEM Entertainment. And it's an all-out brawl. 360 around the circle. Everyone's fighting everyone. Just trying to make their way in. TEM Entertainment might be the next team to go out from the blue zone. He's got to get in that buggy and make a mad dash of things. But BESIKTAS fires back some shots. Will force him to turn the back around into Train to Kill. And I think Train to Kill will finish that one. Vivo Keyd, last player up. Running into the open. Goes from behind a palm tree. Geek Bam. A little bit more focus on trying to get into zone here. He's going to get a confirmation onto 1. Almost that revive came through. And on the north side, it is TEM Entertainment. The fighting just does not stop.
Train to Kill still moving on in. Vivo Keyd will get confirmed out as Geek Fam turn it around. Again, they have been so consistent. They are looking for another winner chicken dinner. But what an obstacle they have to overcome in the form of BESIKTAS, who've moved on in with all 4 of their players. The only team to make that happen. With only 3 eliminations, though, they need to start getting those hits. And already Geek finding one into BESIKTAS, an immediate confirmation as well. So this is not looking too good. All those teams moving on in from the edge of the zone. The play zone just going to be an absolute thorn in their side.
Yeah. Players trying to provide covering fire and then getting third party instantly, and then vice versa, back and forth. Geek fam not in the next zone in that shack, so they have to move out of the shack. BESIKTAS in zone, but in a terrible spot to get pelted by everyone else. Game Lord also over the top can come in with a very disgusting third party angle, and he will have to do so soon as he is also not in the zone. It is tough for everyone out here, regardless if you have the zone or not.
I mean, you want to talk about this final zone, talk about the valley of danger. No one wants to move on in. BESIKTAS, especially Sassy, out in the open. But what can you do? There's no cover to work with. Now as another knock comes on in, will BESIKTAS be able to get that res on up, or will GeekFam finally be able to put some nails in the coffin?
Shots landing back and forth. They will get that confirmation. Now Train to Kill gonna make their move. They actually have a nice little ridge line side here, so actually they will find the best position in the map. Safe from BESIKTAS and a good angle onto the Geek Fam players who do not have the circle. If that shack is in the edge of circle, it definitely will not be on the next zone, and no, they will have to move out. Moving out wide into the open, zigzags back and forth, and that is Train to Kill with their sightlines trained on that shack. Geek Fam will go out. Now we're down to the two teams. Train to Kill, 3v2. They've been shooting at this BESIKTAS team the entirety of the last 5 to 6 minutes. They have a great idea of exactly what they have to do to get this chicken.
I mean, BESIKTAS, if you want to talk about the cover that they have to work with, Peace is just the bait right now, trying to provide some opportunity for Sun HP to close that distance to Train to Kill, and does actually manage to find one. If they can turn this around, it's going to pick up now, get the other elimination. It could be the final hit for BESIKTAS.
It's the 1v1. Peace running in the open. Soundhouse is going to get the HP back up, though, with the first aid kit. He has the time to do so. Great shots blocked by Sun HP, eating those bullets. Those bullets would have got Peace down to 1, if not confirmed him. And now Train to Kill should do the same. He should send both of his teammates down. Actually, sending one for info, that's smart, and the other one getting the revive. The blue zone closing in though. He can't even get the revive, but using his teammates as bait, trying to soak up the bullets. It is not enough. It is actually BESIKTAS with that amazing 2v3 from the low ground, from all the disadvantages possible. The disadvantage in the position, the disadvantage in the manpower, but it is BESIKTAS coming out on top. They weathered the storm. They were the first 4-man team into that deep trench, that gully, and you saw how many teams were all shooting at them the whole time, but they stayed alive and they managed to close it out for the chicken dinner.
You want to talk about clinical? Having your knocked teammates save you from literally getting eliminated in a one-on-one, providing you that time to close the gap and then win it out? BESIKTAS, my goodness, I think our analysts would absolutely be losing their minds if they have been asking for BESIKTAS to bring that action, to bring that momentum. This was the map to make it happen.
Yeah, I was saying, BESIKTAS has been really quiet. This team with a lot of experience, they were 14th place overall, and it's a good time to get a chicken dinner in. They still got one more match left to go to close that gap, to shoot up in the leaderboards. But if anything, this is a great confidence booster for not just the last match, but going into the next couple of days. If you have a bad turnout on the first day, especially when you're experienced, it's hard to climb back up.
It hurts. It hurts the momentum, but now they have that opportunity just to change things around, and they need to continue that into the next.
Yeah, so BESIKTAS with the comeback, they are essentially revived into this fight. Which other teams are looking to do so? We have one match left to go.
That game was sick! Oh my goodness! Piecing them up right there at the end. Besiktas Esports finally put some big points on the
Goddamn.
board. Could you ask for a better ending than that? You can't. That's the answer.
Jukes. It is grade A example of what you mentioned at the start of the broadcast. Clutch factor.
Yes, sir.
hesitated. Sandesh hesitated. He went for the revive as the blue zone was coming in. You can't give a player like Peace or any pro player that can clutch factor that kind of space.
You really can. And I mean, Geek Fam, though, continues to perform so well, even though they... What? 4 eliminations out of Snipes. 4 eliminations out of Micah, and I know you were getting hype. And then you also have another player that we really haven't seen here in the top performers, Damn Rude, being able to put up 4 eliminations himself as well. Yeah, they might have not been able to get the win, but wow, what a performance out of that. And for T2K, how are you going to allow Besiktas to get that close to you? You mentioned perfectly, the clutch factor.
However, despite throwing away a chicken dinner, T2K have been on a progressive streak throughout the 5 games, and they've now got themselves up into 3rd place overall. That certainly deserves to be credited. But if you're going to stay in the top 3, you need to be able to clutch out those games. You need to be able to grab those chickens.
And you need to start grabbing a lot more eliminations. You saw it there. I mean, 19 eliminations for that team total, when some of the other teams, I mean, even Reject, currently in 9th, they have 19. Vivo Keyd currently at 18. By the way, I gotta give mad props to Vivo Keyd because they have one of their best matches right there in that Miramar, being able to push up themselves to 11th. And I know you're gonna be happy about this one, Imperium. Game Lord pushing up to 10th place with 30 points.
Yeah, I was gonna leave it because they're on my team to watch coming into the last game of the day, but they've done everything right. They haven't had massive blunders. They haven't made any wild mistakes. They understand that they're in a lobby where they are the massive underdogs and they can't overextend their location, their presence, and they stayed under the radar, and they've gotten some pretty hefty results. Taking out IHC down on the south edge of the circle was a pretty strong team engagement.
I mean, for me, it's pretty crazy to see Besiktas just jump that far on the leaderboards. They have had a rough day today. And then, boom, they bust out 23 points. And then finally, we see them on the first page. That was by far the majority of all their points was just in that one. There's still one more left to go in Erangel. Here are the drop locations for all the squads. You can see, and, you know, we haven't seen any hot drops in here so far. And I don't really expect to see any of them here in this match 7.
Something that I am going to be looking at is 4 Angry Men. So far in the previous 2 matches from Erangel, we've seen 4 Angry Men. In the first Erangel match, we saw one of the players getting knocked in super early on. And then on the second match of Erangel, we saw actually them losing one of their players. I can't remember on the top of my head who it was, but it's just pretty, it was Reject. Thanks for reminding me. It's starting to become a pattern, and they got to break that pattern, especially if they want to start performing really well, especially if they want to maintain themselves there towards the top of the leaderboard. Right now, they're currently in 4th place. Right now, they're out of that 3rd spot. 4 Angry Men needs to switch up whatever they're currently doing in Erangel.
Hey,
we can
hold this. Hold on, real quick, Imperium. All right. Speaking of patterns, okay, there's been a pattern of circle toxicity so far here in this group.
Yep.
All right. So I want to know, I'm going to ask you, Imperium, right? Before we go to your players to watch, where is this zone going here in the last one?
Pachinki.
Dead center. Okay. 7?
Why not, man?
I want toxicity. Give me that military circle again, please. That was amazing.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. A classic 7 right there. I'll go with Zarky. I've never seen it. I've only seen it once in my whole career. I want to see it one more time, baby. I'll keep begging for Zarky till the day I die. 7, break down your teams to watch.
I mean, Vivo Keyd, you heard me talking about them earlier. They were able to put up 6 eliminations. They were also able to take the fight between GeekFam and Missiles, which was super impressive. I was not expecting that. Hopefully, it's going to be a bit of a confidence boost for this team. It is going to be a bit of a turnaround. Now they are within the top 11. Maybe that will spark them up even more with the performances that we have seen out of them before. DJ Xavier, I mean, I picked them because they are heavily underperforming. I don't know what's currently going on with this team, but it's giving me the vibes of the Infinity that we saw in the first week of PMGC, and that's something I definitely don't want to be seeing here. And with Rejects, I mean, we really haven't seen them since they got that chicken dinner. This team started off super slow. They got the chicken dinner. We kind of celebrated a little bit, and then all of a sudden, they absolutely disappear. Pyramid.
Yeah, you're bang on with that. Couldn't have hit the nail on the head anymore in that regard. TEM Entertainment for me, look, I love an underdog story. We've seen the rise of T2K, we've seen the rise of BESIKTAS, especially. Now I want to see TEM Entertainment entertain us with a strong result. End the day on a high note, boys.
Hey, let's do it. Let's get it going here. Final match here of day number 1 of Group Yellow. Let's take it on over to our casters.
Thank you, Hot Jukes. Well, we saw last game, even if you're deep in the lower half of the leaderboards, you can get it done. BESIKTAS just proved that to us. TEM Entertainment, they can look to do the same, or for any of the other teams on the lower half. This is the last match for the day to do it, and if I've seen anything happen so far in the PMGC is that it's going to be a roller coaster ride. We might see something unexpected on this very last match.
I mean, it came down to just the fact that BESIKTAS finally brought in that synergy that we've been lacking. I mean, we know that they've got that individual prowess. We saw that 1v4 with Enjoy at the very start of the day, but we just needed that team, commitment. We needed that team synergy to bring it home, to bring it into a winner-winner chicken dinner, placement. So now that question gets posed to every other team. What have they been lacking? What can they bring in this last map to not only give them their best possible footing into tomorrow, but also to just up that momentum, get them ready for the next day, because we still have a lot of maps to go through. They need to sustain themselves in, but it's going to come down to the last Erangel of the day to see who is going to be picking up the winner-winner chicken dinner for the last time today.
And we are starting off this Erangel with, once again, a very southern plane path. Same one from the southwest up a little bit to the northeast, but very southern. Might see some drop clashes due to this plane path. At least during rotation, we might see some, potential engagement. Teams dropping for vehicles in the same area. Try and make it up to the northern side. And the circle, well, we already had a military base out of the 2 games of Erangel. This one could get tricky as well.
Again, we had that crazy zone on Erangel, and you know what that flight path looked like?
Yeah.
Very similar to this one. Very similar.
Yep. Yeah, you asked the question, will the circle complement the flight path in that game? Well, it certainly did. This one, however, teams should hope that it doesn't complement the flight path. They wanted to go far away from the southern side as possible. 4 a.m. will drop towards that military base uncontested here, so they'll be able to get a good fair amount of loot, and the circle should be popping up anytime soon. Now IHC also going down towards the Novo side, so that is just pretty much where they will loot for these southern plane paths. The circle will go up opposite, up to the north, a little bit of a 50-50 between the northern half and the middle parts of Erangel. Bit favoring the north though. This should be a good circle for everyone, though. Teams in the south can take their time to loot, do some wrapping rotations, a lot of different entryways up into this zone. And so far, I'm looking at the mini-map, doesn't look like any hard drop clashes happening. Might see some things happen on rotation, but other than that, teams should be okay.
That is going to be the hope here. And again, such a northern rotation from such a southern flight path. So it is going to be interesting the way in which these teams do take those rotations. Hopefully, I do hope that they do take those wrapping rotations. We already do see Falcons, just spotting out a little bit of GK action. Imagine though, if that did hit.
Look at that player cam. He's got like a slight smile on, from what I could tell. In the back of my mind, he's like, imagine if I hit this.
Dude, clip it
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. But that is the Falcons team. No connection for them. And the team they were taking, would you even say shots at? I guess you could
Arrows.
consider it a shot. Taking arrows at. It is GK. GK will just be disengaging to loot Rozak. If not, travel up further north to loot Severny, because that'd be a pretty decent idea too. You know, why loot, you know, in Rozak when you could get further into the zone, isolate yourself from everyone else, and just have a good priority over the circle. We see over here, the Vivo Keyd team, uncontested. 4AM usually loots around here, but 4AM has decided instead to go to military base due to that flight path. So Vivo Keyd should be able to also get a nice rotation and nobody in front of them to get into this circle where usually 4AM is in front of them.
And I mean, we were talking about it, you know, some of the first teams to take through into that Severny, you know, that northern portion of the zone that for now is, you know, relatively uncontested. When we were looking at the drop sites, we were thinking, okay, that should be trained to kill because that, you know, they love that shooting range to Severny drop site. They love taking that rotation and bam, here they are taking a rotation right alongside Geekay Esports, trying to head up into Severny. Geekay, of course, now just backing on up. Maybe they might, you know, head a little bit more towards that western side, shooting range, maybe even North George. But there's still so much space available so that if Train to Kill once again find themselves in the north, they might be in a prime position for the later zones.
Yeah, GK, I feel like playing a little bit way too scared. I mean, they see one car driving in. It is still sub 5 minutes. There's so much open ground still up in the north that they could have, you know, just found a spot to play. And if they were looking for loot, there's still shooting range. There's still Severny. Maybe they think a team is looting Severny, but even then, there's some strong compounds with decent loot. So I feel like GK somewhat missing out on an opportunity, but hey, who knows? This circle, it could pull back down to the south, putting GK in once again a wonderful position. Speaking about GK, take a look at the leaderboards, right? Geek Fam in first place. GK, 2 chickens. Geek Fam, only 1. But Geek Fam, massive eliminations, game in, game out. Very, very consistent. And GK also super consistent, but it just goes to show Geek Fam with their massive dominance and elimination points the past 5 games will put them ahead of the team with consistent games and 2 chicken dinners.
And I mean, their placements game after game after game in, we find them in like top 3, top 4, top 5. Like, they're sitting in such good opportunities. They've been so close to taking the winner chicken dinner. I mean, a ridiculous amount of times, if I'll be honest with you. So it makes sense that consistency is finally starting to bear fruit. It is only 8 points of fruit, if you want to talk it that way. So GK, they still have that opportunity to close the gap, but we mentioned earlier on in the stream that we were thinking that there's going to be that gap that's going to be formed from the top spots into the lower spots. We're going to be starting to see a mountain that these teams are going to have to climb because of that experience factor, because of that confidence factor. And GK and Geek Fam, I mean, they have been consistent. They have been just bunkering down and doing what they know they had to get to this point.
Yeah, like a 30-point difference between second and third. That's a pretty massive gap, in my opinion. And GK, it doesn't look like they're going to be letting up anytime soon. They might have one bad game, but even then, they'll get those placement points in because we've seen them do that before, right? And then Geek Fam, sure, they might go out early because they're fighting so much, but if they do that every single game, more oftentimes than not, they're picking up elimination points and fighting their way in. So these 2 teams are very hopeful, but once again, it is only day 1. From day 1 to day 2, a lot can change, and it has changed every single week so far in the PMGC. Teams start stepping up, teams start dropping down for whatever reason, and Geek Fam, I like it. A little cheeky bridge camp being set up onto 4AM.
We saw them do that in that crazy Erangel zone. They were one of the first teams to find themselves here, to find themselves set up. And then, I mean, it was chaos. We had Vivo Keyd here. We had 4 angry men coming through. So they have that expectation that there's going to be something moving on in from that military base island. Because of that crazy flight path, I don't blame any team for wanting to make that gamble that it was going to be military base. Because, again, we've just had such a crazy southern Erangel. Why not again? You know, maybe. But Now, for Angry Men, they're going to have to fight their way through on this western bridge, while on the eastern bridge, IHC, they have a clean pathing into mainland.
I don't think 4 a.m. is expecting a bridge camp here. They should do their due diligence and scout it out, though, but this one's a little bit more difficult of a scout because there's so much cover on the other end of the bridge to see clearly, and it doesn't look like 4 a.m. is ready for this. GEEK, fam, this team's so aggressive. They play on the edge. They could rotate into the middle of the circle. Instead, they're going to sit in the blue to pick up more elimination points because that is just what they've been doing. But the toes spotted out for the side of 4 a.m. Ever so cognizant and prepared for potential mishaps, and they're gonna get the opening knock onto GEEK fam. This is still gonna be a difficult push, however. Are they gonna go aggressive here? 4 a.m. fighting from inside the blue zone. They're gonna hop to the next part. They're gonna take the crash onto the cars, providing cover fire. Very well done. And a trade right back by Svan with the mini. It is all falling apart now for the side of GEEK fam. Oh no.
Maybe Damn Rude can make something happen here from the flanking line, but Snipes will at least find another. So again, there's a hope. There's a sliver of hope here for GEEK fam to turn this one around as Damn Rude holds the line, gives him that covering fire. Hopefully Yuhai will be able to get rezzed up, and then they're still looking at a 3v2, maybe a 3v3 if somehow 4 a.m. can get that res. But it is still going to be a hard fight for them to get out of the situation.
I don't think they were expecting the second player from that little pillar. They got one opening knock there. They're probably thinking that pillar side is clear, and the other two players are maybe one at the lighthouse, one on the left side. Just that slight peek, slightly too long by Svan, and Rude has been pumping in huge amounts of damage into 4 a.m. And this might be the death 4 a.m. One on the high ground, one swinging in from the side, and then they still have those close range players. So yeah, GEEK fam, it looked tricky in the beginning for them. They were at the disadvantage. Two of them knocked with 4 of 4 a.m. up, but GEEK fam continue to show why they love just fighting in from the edge, fighting in the blue zone, taking every fight they can, about to pick up the entirety of the 4 a.m. team.
How many names is GEEK fam going to be adding to their little list? Their little list of just checking off names. They started with IHC, they picked up Train to Kill, now they've picked up 4 Angry Men, and the list just keeps on growing. GEEK fam, again, they have every single right to be that confident, to be in the position that they're in, because every single engagement they take, it's just like they know that they're going to win. And if they're not going to win, they're at least going to take your numbers down very, very low.
Man, this GEEK fam team just really showing their dominance on day one. The only team, in my opinion, playing the style of, you know, fighting in from the edge, knowing how to control teams, knowing how to play together as a team and synergize. Then again, you know, it's looking like shades of HVVP, and HVVP last week was in first place for 3 days in a row. And on the last day, somehow, some way, they dropped down to 6. So I'm hoping the same fate does not befall of GEEK fam, because I am quite enjoying their gameplay. Meanwhile, the zone has shifted to the northwest. We're on to Circle 2. Right now, a lot of teams still finding different ways to rotate in. FaZe going through the northern shore side. Do just need to get below that ridge line a little bit. They should be okay. A lot of shots missed, honestly, by Genesis DOGMA there.
I mean, you can count your lucky stars right now if you're FaZe that those shots have missed, because if they were hitting, we could be seeing a lot more FaZe numbers going down. But in the turn, FaZe, Tony K finding at least one from Train to Kill. Legend will be knocked. Whether that confirmation will come through or not, I'm not too sure. Train to Kill, they have that ability to rotate on up, get that trained on in, get that res moved on through. And the rest of the teams now, once again, it just seems like a race to the north. That's what this entirety of Erangel has been from the beginning of that flight path into this phase. Now, the zone has been so harsh.
Very harsh indeed. IHC coming in from the eastern side. A refreshed IHC, I'd have to say, looking nothing like the first 3 games. Ever since they bought Ziola in, the team has just been aggressive. They see a fight, they will take the fight. They're not worried about rotations. They'll just work their way in slowly, and they do find the edge of circle for now. Probably won't get into a fight until the next zone. They'll prioritize their fights correctly. GK right here, a little bit more centered up, down on the low ground. And they do have a team of Xavier over the top. Needs to be a little bit careful peeking out too long through those windowsills. Rejects, meanwhile, on the other hand, they had one good game so far. They've been slowly falling down to the wayside. Find all 4 of their players in the low ground with Shack as well.
Vivo Keyd now up, sending through a lovely little molly there on towards Furious Gaming. Trigger on fire, quite literally, but not the way that they were looking for. As Furious Gaming will lose 2, I expect to at least, as that confirmation is potentially just around the corner. Down to only Milos now, alongside Fernan, who needs to make that rotation on out. And again, this was their way into the zone. They were coming through from that southern side, heading up against Vivo Keyd, and now having to go back to the drawing board. How do they rotate back into this?
Yeah, down to 2. Nongshim, Red, getting into a fight. We saw little signs of success when they got into a fight earlier with Falcons, but this time around, does not seem like it. Nongshim down to 2. Actually, Falcons only has 1 player left. It's mutual assured destruction pretty much here. 2v2 on the edge of zone. They will pop off that med kit right here. Never alone. Driving around looking to find some info, maybe find some semblance of players to watch out for. Nongshim just continue to take this fight though. That nade, however, is good. Sporta will land it in onto Never Alone.
And that's going to be the trigger for Yusuf to take the hit on out of there into the vehicle, disengage. There is no hope left here. And Nongshim RedForce will win out this engagement against Falcon Esports. But again, back into the vehicles we go as that zone heads towards the west. And in terms of, like, again, the teams that are really finding themselves in quite a comfortable spot, FaZe Clan moving on in from the northern coastline. They have a great opportunity. We do have a few potential looming threats, of course. The action is not going to stop here for BESIKTAS because they still find themselves into that western side, and they might be one of the teams to set up early on rather than the rest.
Playing from the edge now is kind of risky, especially if you have a team to your back. Looking at Game Wars, potentially taking a fight with BESIKTAS here. Also, we do have to remember the team of Geekay, they actually rotated hard into the center, so they rotated back out. IHC pressing everybody forwards, which is completely fine for them. I mean, this is what they do. Nice explosion right there, picking up 2 more eliminations. As Nongshim RedForce out with only 3 points to their name. IHC have 3 eliminations themselves, but they have 4 players up. They'll continue into the rest of the game. Here's the last position for Geek Fam. Maybe bridge camping 4 AM was not the best choice as they find themselves as a solo player stuck in a shack.
Yeah, that rotation down into center all the way from the south did come with its cost. Now Yuhai, the last remaining member, IHC, I mean, my goodness, Game Lords. They have come on in for the opening, come on in for the closing now as Geek Fam gets sent back into the lobby, which does mean there's an opportunity for Geekay Esports to close that gap as well with the biggest competitor now taken on out. That pole position potentially up for grabs. We'll have to wait to see what Geekay Esports will move on in and what some of the other teams will do to start to close that gap into 3rd place.
Rejects so far suffering a lot of terrible games, I'd have to say. Has defaulted to sending all 4 players into the middle of the zone in a shack. Now that could work out as far as placement goes. They keep getting zoned, but it really limits what they could have done with 4 players. But adjustments do have to be made. If they're not really feeling it today, I can't blame them if they can find central position. So we'll see how it plays out for them. Game Lord still working around the edge of the zone. They did lose 1 player, so their fighting power does go down a little bit. In the elimination feed, IHC continue to do IHC things, and it's actually onto the side of GK. GK having their first bad game, and it's to the likes of a refreshed, dominant-looking IHC.
We've had our top teams taken out quite close to one another. Only 4 phases deep, and now every single team left up in Erangel. They have an opportunity to climb that leaderboard. They have an opportunity to end Erangel on the highest high that we've seen so far. the looming threat of Geek Fam, the looming threat of Geekay Esports, it's gone. They've taken out the competition quite literally, and now IHC, maybe we might see more of them. Maybe it might be Train to Kill, but Game Lords still stepping up, still applying that pressure. And now Genesis, DOGMA, GIDS have an opportunity to redeem themselves here at Sute.
They do, but it's only if they can survive the suppressive firepower of IHC. IHC and Genesis both on the edge, but IHC definitely have more grounds to work with. If the zone shifts off to both of them, which it does, IHC can play this a little bit slower and keep Genesis pinned in for longer. Plus, I don't think Genesis have much working vehicles at this point. That one's definitely blown up. So IHC looking good, working in from the high ground. They do have to worry about DXavier to their west. DXavier does have a 4-man team. If they decide to swing east, it could be a 4v4, but I think DXavier might be looking more towards the western side and swinging to the left.
Ooh, this is an interesting one here for BESIKTAS to move on in. They've got Game Lords right up ahead of them. They've also got Vivo Keyd, so unfortunately the competition does not end just with one team up into potentially 1v2 teams. If they want to get themselves into zone with that current pathing, maybe they can take a rotation out. Game Lords now feeling the pressure, one going down. DXavier back from the grave and looking to take a few names with them. Rob's now trying to get that res on up, and it is going to be a tough one for them to move out of this position.
Definitely tough. Not as tough for Genesis DOGMA though. They don't even have a vehicle, and they have all of IHC looking to pick up the points. Genesis DOGMA gets down to 1. From inside the shack, he's got some smokes. They can't make much use of those because it's not hard cover. Blue zone covering him now. IHC just looking to pick up the last point before focusing their attention from inside the circle, and smartly enough decides to deny the point. Any point you could prevent from any competitor is one point you don't have to worry about in the future.
Absolutely, just giving yourself that spacing here. DXavier looking to do the exact same over with Game Lords, and now they're reaching on in closer to center than the rest, but Vivo Keyd moving on in from the southern portion is going to give him that extra pressure. Lamborghini turning around to try and stop that onslaught, and they will do so. They find 2. Vivo Keyd, all of a sudden the tables are turned onto them. It's down to 2 members to now try and fight up against the entirety of DXavier here with their 3 players.
Yeah, DXavier, if there's a game for them to come back from, it would be the last game of the day. And here's a massive push out of IHC against the 4-man team of RC. Rejects, they shouldn't expect all 4 players in here, but they are going strong, and they take out the 4-man team of the Rejects. That is Rejects out in 10th place with 0 eliminations. They had 4 players. I was saying, you have 4. You could do so much more than put all of them in a shack. And that is the risk they took. Of course, if anybody could break open that shack of 4 of a 4-man team, it would be IHC. And they did it in spades. And they'll get a reset up to 311 eliminations for them already. Vivo Keyd, though, if you take a look, they're up to 7. They'll manage to keep 3 up, so they actually took that fight with DXavier and came out on top, even though it looked really risky for them.
It didn't make sense at all how they had any business making a recovery from that engagement. Yeah. I mean, we did have at least 2 players left alive, but everything was looking like it was going the way of DXavier. Picking up those 2, moving on in with the flanking position. I wouldn't have put it onto Vivo Keyd, but okay, I'm sorry, I will sit back down. Game Lords now, alongside Vivo Keyd, they're going to make that rotation on in from the southwestern side with the looming threat of IHC moving on in from the southeastern portion alongside Train to Kill. Once again, FaZe Clan and TEM Entertainment in the center, holding strong.
Holding very strong, but I think more teams should be worried about Train to Kill because they have massive control on the entire eastern side. That northern side base does look strong, but it's not a lot of hard cover or high vantage points. So a team like GameLore could swing to the northwest and pincer their way in with Train to Kill just holding a dominant position. We'll see what happens here. TEM Entertainment holding down a nice little spot here. Hopefully they won't get full push. IHC, though, might be thinking about it because IHC has lost the zone, and last time they lost the zone, well, they full pushed. The shack might be looking to do the same.
Entertainment not providing a lot of space for IHC to work with.
I love the readjustment also out of FaZe. Instead of holding the entire north side, they shifted to the northwest. They realized they couldn't hold it down in case they get pincered. So they're going to look to gatekeep out Game Lord on the western side and then deal with Train to Kill when the time comes. IHC, however, somehow find Legend in that sneaky off-angle position. Man, the second you give your position away, IHC is going to hit back. And that is going to be a player out of Train to Kill that will not be able to get revived, I think.
I don't think so either. IHC in the meanwhile now turning the attention here towards TEM Entertainment. And I would gather that IHC have the toughest fight to get themselves into zone. Not only do they go up to Train to Kill, but now up against TEM Entertainment, who finds Demo and applies that pressure down. Need to recover here. Icy still trying to find that line of sight. FaZe Clan holding on to the center zone, while TEM Entertainment reset themselves to completely take out IHC in the hopes of giving themselves that space.
IHC just down to Icy. Not looking good for him. There's still 3 up from TEM Entertainment. Icy's probably going to have to give up that fight and just prone in on the lower ridge side. That does put him in sightlines of Vivo Keyd if they look this way. Gets the first aid off. He's going to try and prone in. Meanwhile, FaZe now has the upper hand over Train to Kill. Train to Kill lost that numbers advantage. And that is Icy caught and found by Vivo Keyd. They go out with 12 eliminations. Still a good game for them. Vivo Keyd with 8 eliminations. And they got the momentum. They are feeling it right now. And as I say that, they drive right in and run a player over of TEM Entertainment.
Diego bringing in the bumper cars here into this final moment, and now they might even continue with that, finding that opening opportunity towards TEM Entertainment. Looking at the numbers, TEM up with 2, up against the wonderful 3. The wonderful trio coming through from Vivo Keyd, who have just been on momentum after momentum, finding that near knock onto the second player here from TEM Entertainment, trying to return the favor and applying that pressure, but they're not rushing in. They're making sure that they're checking everything off of their list. Absolutely disgusting, as TEM Entertainment only have 1 more player left alive in the shack, as Vivo Keyd continue to cross their T's and dot the I's.
Oh, Train to Kill from the other side, actually popping off some shots there, and Train to Kill will get a nice third-party shot in. Oh, there's a free point right there if Jane takes a look, and he does. Train to Kill only with 1 elimination so far, though. He looked to pick up a few more. Jane's in a good position to gatekeep both of these players out. His teammates got the inside of the circle locked down for him. He doesn't have to worry about anything besides picking up those 2 Vivo Keyd players.
FaZe, that's going to be the question mark here. Moving on in from that northern side, has taken a little bit more controlling portion of the western side of the zone, just with that FaZe and that shift. But now Game Lords, they're going to be moving on in. They're already looking towards Tony K and the likes, trying to get those reses, trying to get those eliminations confirmed, but Game Lords only have 1 player up right now before they can get that res. I mean, if you want to talk about the rest, it's Train to Kill, then it's Vivo Keyd. I'm not really seeing them in a great position in zone. They have to make a move now.
They definitely do. Time is ticking. Blue zones closing in. Train to Kill, trying to make a play. Not sure what that buggy play was for. The rest of your teammates are down on the southern side. A solo player trying to take the north side from FaZe. I don't know about that one. Vivo Keyd now making a move. And Train to Kill will get ahead of them. And now it comes down to a 4v2. Train to Kill backed up in a corner. FaZe looking extremely strong. Full circle control. Train to Kill. It's looking quite dire for them.
I really do not see how this is going to be happening. FaZe have been left to their own devices, and that is a very dangerous prospect to give to any team in the PMGC stages. At least we'll find 1 onto FaZe. That gives them some space to work with, but it is still a 3v2 scenario here. And Tony K out in the open. Don't think there's an opportunity for a res.
No, he gets confirmed by Jane from the other side. Now all of a sudden, it's looking like it's doable because there's still 1 more circle. It's actually FaZe that has to press into Train to Kill. Train to Kill. If they didn't lose that 1 player earlier that swung north and got ripped out the buggy, this would be a much more closer fight. As close as it is already. Jane's got the Groza, however. Sandesh with the AK. It's going to be a slightly slow lull period here. Both teams are in the zone and neither one wants to give up their position just yet.
Snaking it in the grasses, literally hiding in the bushes. That's all that they have available to them. And slowly but surely, that zone will move on in and force these two teams to take up arms one against one another. And FaZe running with that 2-1 split could be crucial. Lycan with the flanking opportunity on towards Jane, and Jane now actually sending out some nades. That's going to give the exact information Lycan has been looking for. So they have better information, they have the better numbers, but can they close this one out?
Jane's playing a little bit closer to his teammate because he wants to be able to be there for the sidelines for a trade in case it happens. It's pretty much the way you kind of have to play it in a 2v3. You leave Sandesh in a 1v2, or you leave the potential opening for a flank. The number disadvantage is very evident here, and FaZe is playing it to their advantage. However, the zone will shift once more. Pretty much, circle's not going to shift anywhere. It's just going to close into the middle, meaning FaZe will have to move first, I would have to say. Train to Kill
Absolutely.
has more of the center. It's a standoff. There's still more util out of Jane. We saw that grenade in hand. Does FaZe have any util? Smoke's coming down for Jane. Very nice smoke. Trying to block off that right-hand side, that flank angle. That is exactly what Jane is aware and wary of. And those are some good smokes right there.
Trade to Kill, they just look so much better in terms of utility, but FaZe, again, for them, it is that numbers advantage. You can already see Ventura closing on up into that center position. They're almost right alongside each other. But Sandesh, beautiful line of sight onto Ventura. Again, this looming threat of those crossfires, those opportunities as the stand-up comes on in, and they're looking for that final opportunity.
Venturas finds it. That is Jane down, Sandesh with the trade, and the numbers advantage comes through, and FaZe play that slow and methodical, and they take the chicken dinner. Big win for FaZe. FaZe, a team that a lot of people had their eyes out for, a very highly talked about team, and to end the day off on a chicken dinner, very well done. Taking huge advantage, like you mentioned, of that northern side of the zone, using the ridge line, keeping the whole entire northern hemisphere pretty much of the zone to themselves, and that will nab them the chicken dinner.
I mean, massive rotations from FaZe to make that one possible in the final moments. We had so many teams stepping up to double-digit eliminations. We had Vivo Keyd, we had GEEK Fam, unsurprisingly, but we had IHC as well, stepping on up and making sure that they were going to be a force to beat. Yet, right at the end, it comes down to keeping everything in check, playing for that objective, playing for that winner chicken dinner and prime positioning in zone that was going to award FaZe ultimately that winner chicken dinner with the good amount of eliminations, 4 eliminations I think it was at the end of that, but at the very least, again, it's that winner chicken dinner at the end of day number 1. That's going to give them a momentum for the next days.
That puts FaZe in a great position in the overall leaderboards. If you take a look at the travel distance, man, so many teams had to travel and work their way up to the northern zone. Vivo Keyd had to slug it out constantly, 32 smokes deployed. But at the end of the day, for the very last match, it'll be FaZe coming out on top.
And FaZe Clan finally shows up to the party in the last match, busting out the chicken dinner there. Vivo Keyd finally woke up as well here, 7.
Vivo Keyd, 11 eliminations. I had him in my teams to watch this. This is exactly what I was hoping the team would be able to do. And then on top of that, I mean, can we give some love to Game Lord? This team has definitely outperformed everybody's expectations. I know Imperium is going to be happy about that one. 16 points for them. But FaZe Clan being able to bounce back from the performances that we have seen out of them. And I must say that their best player for this previous match, I mean, Torres, was the one that was able to clutch up earlier in Sanhok. And I love to see that.
It's the FaZe performance we've been